Let's begin with the facts, because myths are just facts that have been left in the sun too long. You are born in Liverpool in 1887. Not the Liverpool of jaunty sea shanties and grand futures, but the Liverpool of damp, clinging fog, and the pervasive smell of coal smoke and fried fish. Your father is a clerk, a man whose spine has been permanently curved into a question mark from a lifetime of leaning over ledgers. He doesn't offer you a world of opportunity. He offers you a single, narrow escape route from the life that is swallowing him whole: music. It's a clean trade, he says. Respectable. You won't get your hands dirty. What he means is, your servitude will be slightly more elegant than that of the man he sees coughing up their lungs in the shipyards. Your birth is not an event. It's the filling of a job vacancy. You are Wallace Hartley, and your fate was decided for you before you could even hold the violin that would become both your tool and your shackle. Your curse is this respectability. It's a cage with gilded bars. You aren't destined for greatness. You're designated for service. The path is laid out for you with the grim finality of a railway line. You don't remember choosing music. You remember the violin case under your bed, a small, dark coffin for your childhood. You remember watching other boys kick a scuffed leather ball in the street, their shouts echoing in the narrow alleyways. There is no envy in your heart, only a cold, quiet understanding. Their joy is loud, temporary, and free. Your future is quiet, constant, and owned by others. Your most vivid early memory is of your father taking you to see a string quartet perform at a local assembly hall. He pointed to the first violinist, a man with a pained expression and sweat beading on his brow, and whispered, "See, son? They need him. They can't start without him." You didn't see a leader. You saw a hostage, the first one they'd shoot if things went wrong. You learned your lesson perfectly. Your value was not in your presence, but in your function. Your childhood officially ends at the age of 12. The end doesn't come with a bang, but with the squeak of rosin on a bowstring. Your training begins in earnest, not in a grand conservatory, but in the back rooms of pubs that smell of stale beer and regret, and in the freezing front parlors of tutors who teach with a metronome in one hand and a ruler in the other. This is your crucible. The location is irrelevant. The methodology is everything. It is a process of systematic annihilation. You are taught that your feelings about a piece of music are an inconvenience. Your instinct for rhythm is a flaw to be corrected. Your soul is a bug in the system. The goal is not to create an artist, but to manufacture a reliable piece of equipment. The lessons are brutal, designed to break you. You are forced to practice scales until your fingertips are raw and bleeding, the strings leaving deep, angry grooves in your flesh. You must learn, by rote, every song in the White Star Line's official songbook, a tome of 352 pieces of mind-numbing light entertainment. A waltz, a polka, a bit of ragtime, an excerpt from an opera you'll never see. They are not songs. They are units of atmospheric filler. One memory stands out, sharp and clear. You are 14. You misplay a note during a rehearsal for a small wedding reception. Your tutor doesn't shout. He stops the music, walks over to you, and calmly explains to the room that a machine with a broken cog is useless and must be repaired. He then makes you play the offending bar of music alone for 1 hour straight in front of everyone. The humiliation is the point. It is a lesson in precision, but also a lesson in shame. It rewires you. You learn that a wrong note is not a mistake. It is a betrayal of your function. Empathy is stripped away, replaced by mechanical accuracy. Innocence is replaced by a desperate need for approval. You are not learning to play the violin. You are being programmed. The myth, the gilded lie they sell to the passengers, is that you are an artist. You are the TITanic Bandsman, a romantic figure in a sharp uniform, the soulful curator of the ship's sophisticated ambience. You are a man of culture, a weaver of beautiful melodies that dance over the clinking of champagne glasses. But let's cut through that nonsense and get to the vile reality of your biological existence. First, the hygiene. You live in the glory hole, a cramped, windowless cabin shared with another musician in the bowels of the ship. The air is a recycled soup of sweat, cheap soap, and engine fumes. You wash with a communal bar of lye soap that scrapes your skin raw. Now, the diet. You eat what the crew eats when they eat. It's a monotonous parade of boiled potatoes, gristly meat, and bread that's always a day past its prime. It is fuel, not food, designed to keep the machine running at minimal cost. And your health? You are a floating petri dish. A common cold can sweep through your quarters in a day. An infected cut from a freight string could lead to sepsis. There is a doctor on board, of course, for the passengers. For you, there is the hope that you don't get sick, because being sick is an unapproved deviation from your duties. You are not a person. You are a line item on a budget, an asset whose depreciation begins the moment you step on board. This is at April 1912, the RMS Titanic. This is the peak of your craft, the moment your relentless programming is put to its ultimate test on the grandest stage imaginable. You are the bandmaster, the lead cog in the machine. Your performance is one of legendary proficiency, though no one will ever know your name. You and your 7-man orchestra are flawless. You are a perfectly calibrated unit, churning out waltz for the Strausses, light opera for the Astors, and ragtime for the new money millionaires. You are the official soundtrack to the Gilded Age, the metronome for the conversations of men who could buy and sell countries between the soup and the fish course. You play with a chilling, mechanical precision that is the envy of every band on the Atlantic. This is the absolute height of your powers, to be so perfectly functional, so seamlessly integrated into the environment, that you become invisible. You are an ambient feature, no more personally notable than the polished brass railings or the crystal chandeliers. Your success is measured by how little you are noticed. Your genius is your anonymity. Your legend is that, for 4 glorious, sun-drenched days, no one had to endure a single moment of silence. You are not creating art. You are preventing the discomfort of quiet contemplation. But let's talk about your actual place in this floating hierarchy. You are, despite your skill and your crisp uniform, living furniture that makes noise. You are a tool. You exist in a social cage, a no-man's land between the passengers who ignore you and the crew who resent you. You are technically a second-class passenger, a contractual loophole that allows the CW and FN Black agency to bill White Star for your passage while paying you a fraction of a crewman's wage. The same people who tap their feet to your music would never dream of acknowledging you on deck. You are looked through, past, and around. Your daily grind is a soul-crushing exercise in monotony. You play when passengers board. You play during afternoon tea. You play before dinner. You play during dinner. You play after dinner. You play until the last brandy has been drunk and the last cigar has been stubbed out. Your purpose is not to entertain, but to distract. You are a high-class anesthetic, deployed to fill the awkward silences and provide a pleasant sonic backdrop so that the wealthy don't have to listen to the unsettling thoughts in their own heads. You are there to make sure the machine of society runs smoothly without any jarring moments of introspection. The societal contempt is subtle, but ever-present. It's in the way a steward herds you towards the service stairs, or the way a passenger's gaze slides off you as if you were part of the wallpaper. There's an anecdote, a story you'll never get to tell. A wealthy American woman requests a specific, obscure piece of music. You don't have the sheet music for it. You politely explain this. She doesn't hear you. She simply tells her husband, "The help here is rather inept." You are not a musician who lacks a particular score. You are inept help. There are no specific laws that govern your station, only the unwritten, unbreakable rules of class. You are necessary, but not important. You are required, but not desired. And the most vicious part of the cycle. You are not required to train a new generation, but you know that back in Liverpool, there are 100 other young men in freezing parlors, being systematically disassembled, ready to take your place the moment you falter. They are learning the same 352 songs, internalizing the same public humiliation, having their souls sanded down to fit the same functional mold. Your one small, private comfort is that you have not inflicted this life upon another. It is a meager and pathetic consolation. Then comes the iceberg. For you, it is not the dramatic, singular catastrophe that will be depicted in paintings and films. It is a change in management directives. There is a shudder that runs through the ship, a low, grinding groan that travels up from the keel and into the soles of your feet. The music falters for a beat, a tremor of unease. You look at your men. They look at you. The programming holds. Then, an officer appears, his face pale, but his voice steady. He doesn't shout. He doesn't declare an emergency. He gives you an order, the same way he would order a deckhand to swab the deck. Keep playing. It will help keep everyone calm. This is not a request for heroism. This is not a plea for courage. It is your final work assignment. Your entire life, the freezing parlors, the endless drills, the humiliation, the sanding down of your spirit, has been a preparation for this one absurd moment. Your purpose, refined to its purest form, is to deploy a cheerful waltz as an instrument of crowd control in the face of absolute, world-ending disaster. The breaking point isn't the impact. It's the mundane, bureaucratic realization that your function is to provide a polite, orderly, and completely dishonest soundtrack for the end of the world. You are to play Alexander's ragtime band, while God is playing his own final, thundering chord. The true horror now moves inward. It's a concert played on the strings of your own nervous system. Your fingers, usually so nimble and sure, begin to grow stiff on the fingerboard of your violin. It's not just the biting Atlantic cold, which is now beginning to creep over the deck like a shroud. It is the icy grip of sheer, mortal terror. You are fighting a war on two fronts. Your training, your programming, screams at you to form the notes, to maintain the tempo, to execute your function flawlessly. But your body, your animal self, is screaming a much older and more sensible tune. It shrieks to run, to fight, to find a boat, to live. You can hear the screams of the passengers now, a sound that cuts through the polite melody you're pedaling. You can feel the sickening, irreversible tilt of the deck beneath your feet. You can hear the deep, internal roar of the ocean as it claims the ship bulkhead by bulkhead. This is your most difficult performance, not because of its technical complexity, but because of the psychological dissonance. Your mind has become the most inescapable prison, a resonant chamber echoing with the clash between the jaunty tune your hands are playing and the horrifying symphony of death unfolding all around you. You look at your cellist, a man whose name you barely know, and see the same war raging in his eyes. You are all soldiers in an orchestra, ordered to play at your own execution. There is no anesthetic for this. Your life has been a study in numbness, in detaching from your own experience. But there is no detaching from this. The vice you might have chosen, alcohol, women, gambling, is irrelevant now. The only choice is between two forms of terror. The terror of abandoning your post, and the terror of staying. Your programming wins. You keep playing. You transition from a waltz to a hymn. Nearer, my God, to thee. Is it an act of faith? A plea for salvation? Or is it simply the next song on the list? The most appropriate piece of atmospheric filler for an audience that is about to meet its creator. It's a final, desperate attempt to impose order on a universe that has just proven, with spectacular violence, that there's no order. Your addiction, your lifelong vice, has been duty. And now you are overdosing on it. Your own consciousness is the oral hellscape where the polite strains of a hymn are drowned out by the splintering of wood, the shriek of metal, and the final, gasping cries of 1,500 souls. There is no heroic crescendo. There is no final, defiant note played against the roar of the abyss. Your story, your life's grand performance, does not end with a flourish. It just stops. The chaos you were hired to distract from finally swallows you whole. Your end is pathetic, mundane, and brutally anticlimactic. The deck gives a final, violent lurch, and you are thrown into the black, freezing water. There is no poetry in it. It is a clumsy, anonymous death from cardiac arrest induced by hypothermia. Your final sensation is not of duty fulfilled, but of a pain so intense it feels like your bones are being flash frozen and shattered from the inside out. The high drama of your life's work, the decades of training and sacrifice, are extinguished in less than 2 minutes by a force that is completely indifferent to your talent. Your finale is silence. Your instrument, the wooden box that was your constant companion and tormentor, is lost to the depths, its strings silenced forever. You die surrounded by hundreds of others, your final moments just one small, insignificant part of a much larger, more terrible noise. Directly after your death, there is nothing. Oblivion. You are a name on a list of the dead, miscategorized by some as crew, by others as a passenger. Your body, if recovered, is a frozen, bloated wreck, identifiable only by the name tag sewn into your uniform. Your deeds are not immediately known. You are simply one of the lost. For a time, you are forgotten, your final performance unheard by anyone who survived. Then, the myth-making machine, which runs on tragedy and irony, cranks into gear. Decades pass. A century. Your story, a grim tale of contractual obligation and managed panic, is unearthed, polished, and repurposed. The miserable reality of your existence is whitewashed. Your desperate act of employment, of simply following the last order you were ever given, is transformed into a towering symbol of human dignity, courage, and self-sacrifice in the face of certain death. You are posthumously promoted from a working-class musician into a secular saint of the sea. They erect statues to the idea of you. You, the man who was essentially a human jukebox, become a legend. And now, for the final, dissonant chord. The punchline that turns your tragedy into the blackest of comedies. As your legend grows, as your name becomes synonymous with heroism, your family back home reportedly receives a letter. It is not a letter of condolence from the White Star Line. It is a bill from your employers, CW and FN. Black, the Liverpool booking agency. It is an invoice for the cost of your uniform, now resting at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The ultimate irony is not that you played until the end. It is that the story of your life, a life of thankless service and anonymous suffering, only became a masterpiece after you were no longer around to tell them the truth. You are not remembered. You are a useful fiction. A life lived is a messy, complicated, and often miserable affair. A story told as clean, simple, and more often than not, a beautifully constructed lie. Your final, sobering epilogue is this. You didn't die for honor or for duty. You died because it was, quite literally, your job. And in the end, your memory was worth less to your employers than the clothes on your back. But we are not done. To truly appreciate the exquisite architecture of your suffering, we must linger on the details, because the myth is built in the broad strokes, but the truth lives in the fine print. Let's return to the social cage. It wasn't just about being ignored. It was about being a phantom. You were required to use service entrances, to walk down crew-only corridors, to be invisible until the moment you were required to be audible. You saw the ship in a way the passengers never did. You saw its guts, its steel skeleton, the sweat and grime that made the opulence possible. You saw the exhausted stewards collapsing onto benches for a few precious moments, the cooks shouting in the steam-filled galleys, the stokers emerging from the boiler rooms covered in a black film of coal dust, their faces masks of fatigue. You were adjacent to this world, but not part of it. You were cleaner, your hands soft. And for that, you earned a quiet, simmering resentment. You were a reminder to the crew of the class system, just as you were a reminder to the passengers of the labor they preferred to ignore. You were social nowhere man, a ghost in your own life, haunting the periphery of other people's stories. Your greatest performance wasn't on the deck of the Titanic. It was the daily act of pretending you didn't exist until someone needed a waltz. This constant self-erasure, this agreement to be a non-person, was the true daily grind. It was a slow, methodical erosion of the self, long before the iceberg ever appeared on the horizon. The cold of the Atlantic only finished a process that the rigid warmth of the first-class lounge had begun years before. And that is the true, deep-seated tragedy of your position. You had to cease to be a man long before you ceased to be alive. Your soul was lost at sea long before your body was.